The latest federal budget was finally unveiled this week, and it certainly came with a few surprises. Just about every Canadian in the country will feel the effects of Ottawa's new financial plan thanks to new or increased taxes on several everyday items, but noticeably absent from the budget were tax hikes on the wealthy or even a plan to balance the books. So joining me to explain these numbers is Federal Finance Minister Bill Morneau. You're a very busy man, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Well, it's great to be here.
So let's talk about this. There is no roadmap to getting us out of deficit. Does this mean that we should expect we're just going to have generations of deficits?
Not at all. What you really need to take a look at in what we're doing is it's a continuation of a plan to really grow our economy. We set out a year and a half ago, starting down a plan, and said we need to make investments. We need to make investments to create great jobs. We need to make sure that middle-class families are feeling the benefits of that growth. And that's what we're focused on, not only with this budget, but long-term. That's what we're trying to achieve for Canada.
Yesterday on the show, we had Rona Ambrose, the interim leader of the Conservative Party, and she characterized this budget as nickel and diming the middle class. And, you know, if you look at the tax on Uber and on beer and the elimination of the transit pass subsidy, you could appreciate that on a pocketbook sort of everyday issue, that the middle class will feel this. They're going to feel the pinch, no?
Well, you know, I'd really challenge that premise. So we need to step back and think about what's this government done. I mean, we're the government. The first thing we did was we raised taxes on the 1%, and we lowered taxes on middle-class Canadians. So the average family saw a $540 decrease in their taxes last year. We also increased the Canada Child Benefit so that the average family, again, 9 out of 10 families with kids, they're getting $2,300 more after tax for their family, for raising their kids, for school supplies, for whatever. So what you're seeing now is we're just making sure that our tax system is fair and that it works. But the big picture is middle-class families feel a lot more confident today than they did a year and a half ago.
I want to move on to the military because what I understand from it was that $8.4 billion taken out of military spending, but a promise to put it back in at a later date and then to spend it over 20 years. Now, that doesn't make too much sense to me. I don't know budgets very well. But what it doesn't sound like is more money for the military, which is surprising given this contemporary conversation we're having about our renewed focus on our military commitment, specifically NATO. So what do you say to that?
Well, we know it's important for us to play an important role in the world. Canada has always done so. When I was down in the White House a few weeks ago, I had a meeting with Vice President Pence and with the new Secretary of Defense where we talked about the enormous contribution Canada's made. In particular, they identified in Afghanistan. What we've said is we have a defense policy review that we're looking at. We want to make sure our military is provisioned for the long term. Really, in a budget for the military, it is complex. You want to make sure that you have the funding when you need it. So ships are something that takes a long time to build. We'll have more to say about this as we come out with our defense policy review in a few months.
And veterans are still waiting for a return to lifelong pensions. When can they expect that?
Well, again, we made a commitment. We said that we were going to deal with the real challenge that veterans have when they come back to our country. So we are focused on doing that right. In the interim, we've made a whole host of improvements in veterans' lives, helping them to get service when they're here. We're dealing with post-traumatic stress. We're giving people the opportunity to train so they can get jobs. So we're making a difference, and we're going to get the lifelong pensions system right, but it's complex, and we want to do right for the people who've done so much for our country.
Canada's mayors asked a little while back at a summit for $12.6 billion for social housing. They got 11.2. Now, you can't always get what you want, but they got pretty close on this. Have you heard from any of the mayors so far?
Well, I actually saw Don Iveson, the Edmonton mayor, the evening of the budget. I spoke to John Tory a week ago, and I saw his remarks yesterday. So we're in regular communication. What I can tell you is that this issue is so important for people in cities across the country. We're really finding there's just not enough affordable housing. So this is an historic commitment for the federal government to make sure that we're part of a solution, creating the rental housing we need, renovating units, and creating new units so that, as people come to our country, that they have the possibility of finding housing, and people who are here and need to find housing that supports their family, that we can assure that, and again, in collaboration with the provinces and the municipalities, we are building the housing that will give people the base to have a great life.
40,000 new daycare spaces, $7 billion to increase access to affordable childcare, expansion of maternity leave. What does this budget say to women and families?
Well, you've hit on something that's so important. This is an historic budget in the sense that we looked at the budget with a lens about how it empowers women. We know that budget measures impact men and women differently. So we looked at things to say, how are we going to make sure that we have the ability to get women into the workforce, that we deal with the fact that women earn less than men for the same job. So that's our frame. The childcare, it's about creating spaces so we have the possibility for women being in the workforce. We actually put money to help women entrepreneurs in venture capital so that we can actually see a way for people to be successful. So initiatives that are going to make a difference as part of a long-term plan to stay on this issue.
Thank you so much for being here, Minister Morneau. Like I said, we know how busy you are, and your insights on this very important document are very appreciated.
It's great to be here. Thanks very much.